The T34 Calliope and the Hachi rocket barrage tanks are the newest call-ins that came in Battle 5's Pacific Theater update. These are two very fun tanks to use. I'm going to give you guys a full rundown on how to use them. And talk about really how much I've been enjoying these tanks and how I might end up making these my go-to call-ins moving forward. But let me first help out all the new players who are jumping into Battlefield 5 for this free weekend. I will show you quickly how to call in these vehicles. You first have to make sure you are the squad leader. To know your squad leader, you'll see your name above your other squad members. Once you see that, you and your squad have to accumulate at least 20,750 points. You'll have to hit the left and right bumpers once you do so, which on Xbox is the LB or RB buttons that are right in front of your trigger. I do believe on PC you have to hit the letter C. You'll then move your analog stick or mouse towards the rocket tank for whichever faction you're playing on. The T34 Calliope is for the American faction and the Hachi rocket is for the Japanese. They are both practically the same, with the weaponry only having a slight difference with their main gun's fire mode. They also both have different visuals to them that I think benefits one over the other, but I'll get more into that later. Once you've called them in, it shows up in the respawn menu, so yes, one of the most annoying things in Battlefield 5, you have to die or hit the respawn button to get inside this tank. So once you do that, you'll see a golden emblem by the home quarters respawn, and that is how you're able to enter inside this tank. But now that's over with, let's jump into these vehicles, because if you guys have not been checking these things out, you are missing out a ton. Again, like I was saying, both these vehicles are practically the same. But let's first look at what these vehicles have equipped and why I find these really fun and quite useful on the battlefield. So first we'll talk about the highlight of these tanks, the rocket barrage. You have 60 of these rockets in your tank. These rockets literally obliterate anything in their path. Whatever can be destroyed will be destroyed by these rockets. Look at these as your own personal artillery strike that you can just keep calling in over and over again. The damage radius is pretty impressive as well, given that you keep the rockets somewhat close together. This helps maximize all the damage in one location, unloading the full wrath both these tanks' rocket barrages deliver. The only thing really holding you back from not completely dominating everything on the battlefield is accurately landing your shots. The rockets tend to undershoot where your aim is, so you need to look a little bit over your target and lob these rockets in to be most effective. Like I had mentioned earlier, both these tanks each have different fire modes to them. The T34 has 4 rockets that you fire simultaneously, and it has no cooldown between each of your barrages, so once you fired one barrage, you can fire another right after another. The Hachi is a little bit different though. This tank has 6 rockets that come out instead of 4, and it does have a little bit less than a 3-second cooldown between each barrage, so it's a bit interesting what DICE has done here. You have one tank that fires more rockets, but the other tank that fires less has no cooldown. Another thing to note is the Hachi fires its 6 rockets actually faster than the T34 Calliope fires its 4, so again, pretty interesting stuff here. I don't think either of these fire modes favor one over the other. It's just cool to see a little bit of difference these two tanks have. Both of these tanks have a machine gun with 500 rounds you can use, so giving you some well-needed precision if your rocket barrages aren't able to precisely hit an enemy player. Both tanks have one emergency heal. I do not believe the emergency heal can be used twice, even if you go to a resupply station, so do keep that in mind. Both tanks have 5 smoke grenades that you can launch out of your tank to give yourself a little bit more cover if you find yourself out in the open and need to find cover quickly. And finally, each tank has 24 shells that belong to a pretty beastly cannon that can hold its own in tank versus tank battles. These vehicles are actually quite the tank busting type, because not only can you be blasting enemy tanks with a cannon, but you can also swap to the rocket barrage that does a significant amount of damage as well. I think really the only major weakness to these tanks is from the air. You can of course use the machine gun and the cannon to try to snipe planes out of the sky, but it's a bit difficult to do in my opinion, and it's kind of the biggest issue I think these tanks have going for them. But really when it comes down to using these tanks, they are a beast against infantry or other tanks on the battlefield. I was going on some pretty nice streaks with this tank. The rocket barrage actually allows you to play quite aggressive and not just sit back and use your cannon to try to snipe infantries or tanks from afar. You can actually play aggressive and get near the territory because you have a weapon that has a significant amount of splash damage. So they also work well clearing out buildings and just annihilating everything in their path, giving you a clear view to then pull out your machine gun or cannon and clear out the rest of the infantry or tanks that have survived the rocket barrage you just fired. Like I was saying a little bit earlier, it's like having your own mini artillery strike. It's either more powerful or at least the same amount of punch the artillery strike brings. It's just the artillery strike has a broader impact quicker, but the longer you survive with this tank, and the more you're using it of course, the more impact you're going to end up having on the battlefield. This and its 20,750 points is not all too bad of a choice, and it might very well be my go-to call-in for now on, since I feel at times calling in the V1 or JB2 rockets takes too long, especially if it's hard to keep your squad full of members, and the artillery barrage can be a hit or miss at times. So this is something I feel like I can have an impact on the battlefield with consistently, and I don't have to wait for the whole round to almost be over with to use. The T34 Calliope can hold up to 2 of your teammates, while the Hachi can hold up to 3. There are some major visual differences between these two tanks. The T34 has the obvious canopy over it, while the Hachi just looks like another tank. I do think this favors the Hachi a bit more, maybe not from an infantry perspective, but possibly with planes in the sky. The Hachi just looks like it blends in better without having such a large canopy sticking out above it, and I think the camouflage patterns for the tank serve it well. The canopy on the T34 also obstructs your view at times, so it can be pretty annoying. However, the T34 does look more intimidating as it rolls up, displaying its full arsenal of rockets above its head, letting you know that pain is just around the corner. There's another minor difference between these two, and you'll notice that the scope optics between the tanks is a bit different, but that's basically all that was able to stand out for me. Let me know if I might have missed anything between these two tanks down in the comments below. But besides that, let me know what you guys think about these tanks. Again, if you have not used them, you are missing out because the rocket barrage is one really fun thing to use. Try using it on breakthrough where there's a bunch of enemy players trying to hold down a sector and just lay the barrage all around the flag as quick as you can. Just keep playing it down non-stop, and I'm going to guarantee you're probably going to get 1 or 2 kills. So, but that is it for you guys today. Again, I always appreciate you guys being here. I am Livin', and I'll catch you guys again later.